Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about Sweden. They might not be anyone's favourites to win the tournament, but they do actually have a pretty decent squad. They might be missing Zlatan Ibrahimovic as well, as he's not going to be playing in the tournament, but that doesn't stop them having a pretty interesting attack, starring people like Alexander Isak and Dejan Kulusevski. But we're not going to waste any time today, we're just going to get straight into the squad. So this team was actually suggested by someone on my post I did on my channel a couple of days ago. So thank you very much, I've put your comment on the screen right now, and really if you do have any opinions on any of the squads that might be playing in Euro 2020, do check out the post, I'll link it into the description below. Okay, so Sweden. As I said before, they're missing Zlatan, who's been the talisman really, and he's 38, so he's still young enough to be playing, but he's chosen to sit this one out and let some of the younger talent have a chance to play in the tournament. Because Zlatan isn't playing, we're actually going to do the team the other way around to how I've done my other ones, so we're going to be beginning with the striker, going back into midfield, defence, and then finally goalkeeper. The whole time we'll be talking about tactics and how these players work in the selected tactic, so make sure you pay attention if you want to play realistically maybe an online match or do your own Euro 2020 tournament. So, with their most famous striker missing, who will Sweden be playing up front? Well, Theo thinks it will be Kajsen and Isak. Now neither are quite as talented, but Isak's definitely got potential to get around the level that Zlatan is now on FIFA. Robin Kajsen plays for Mainz in the Bundesliga, and he's more of an all-around striker. He's not too fast, he's not too great at finishing, he's not an amazing passer or that strong on the ball or a huge amount of stamina, but he's good at everything. He's not outstanding, just good. In a couple of seasons time, you'll probably see Jordan Larsson starting up front for Sweden. He's already got the ability and he's got potential to be around the same level that Alexander Isak will peak at too. So that would be a very interesting strike force. Isak of course is pretty tall and Larsson's only 5'9", but he does have quite a lot of pace and still decent strength for someone that small. It's up to you how you'll pick your strikers, but personally I would go with Theo's recommendation of Kajsen and Isak for at least the first season. Moving back onto the wings, and this is again pretty obvious who you'll pick. So, you'll go with Dejan Kulusevski from Juventus, and you'll go with Emil Forsberg of Red Bull Leipzig. Kulusevski has the highest potential out of any Swedish player on the game. He'll peak around the top end of the 80s, and I definitely think he'll get there. He's a really good player in real life. I like his trickery on the ball, he's got good pace as well. But in my opinion, the most interesting thing, and something I love to see in wingers, is that he's 1m86 or 6'1" tall. Because of this, he's got a decent amount of strength as well, he's got 73 strength. And if you're playing career mode, you could easily retrain him to be a pretty solid striker if you can just get his finishing a little bit higher than the 70 it starts off with. On the other wing, as I said, you have Emil Forsberg. He's again a pretty tall winger at 5'10". He's not too fast anymore unfortunately, but what he does lack in pace he more than makes up for in his passing and dribbling ability. Unfortunately his physicals make him kind of almost unplayable, but 70 stamina is about the limit that you can get away with for a full match. With Kulusevski almost being a lock at right winger, the only real choice would be to replace Forsberg. If you don't want to play him, then you've also got Sam Larsson. Jesper Karlsson has a good amount of potential, but he's not quite there yet. Neither is Muammar Tankovic, who's probably the only other option you'd want to consider. You've also got Ken Semmer and Christopher Pettersson, who made it into the top 50 Swedish players, but again, they're not that great to be honest, and they don't have potential to improve that much either. So I'd probably go with Forsberg like Theo suggested. So if you haven't guessed by now, the formation we're going for is kind of a hybrid between a 4-4-2 and a 4-2-4. So it's going to have attacking wingers, 2 defensive midfielders, 2 out-and-out strikers, and then 4 defenders. So who do you need to be your 2 centre midfielders? Well, Seb Larsson, if you remember him, he was in the Premier League for a very long time with Sunderland and really good with free kicks, will probably be one of your choices. He's pretty slow, so he might be left a bit wide open if you are playing the 4-2-4 rather than the 4-4-2, but he still has a ton of stamina, with 85 stamina despite being 35 years old. Because Larsson will struggle with running so much, I'd recommend you went with Christopher Olsen next to him. He's got a lot more pace, in the high to mid 70s. He's got quite a bit of stamina, although not quite as much as Larsson, but he does have more pace, he'll get around a bit more anyway. But most interestingly, he's 5'11" and has 88 agility, which is actually a pretty rare combination for a FIFA player. He's got good passing too, good dribbling as well. So with these two players, you're going to be trying to dominate the midfield rather than boss it through defensive or physical power. They have a combined 110 strength out of 200, so this really does show how little strength there is in there. Their stamina is around 170 out of 200, so again, that just proves that you're going to have to win it by running rather than out-muscling your players. So that's the attacking 6 players, all set and ready to go. At fullback, you're probably going to want to play Newcastle's Emil Forsberg. He's 6 foot tall, he's got good sprint speed, he's a right back but also can play centre back, and he shares my birthday. He's the only other alternative to their quite slow Michael Lustig, who probably isn't good enough on FIFA, although he does have better defensive stats. At left back, your choices are either Ludwig Augustinsson, or you can play Ken Semmer if you're more into playing a 5 at the back with wing backs. Augustinsson is elite level at crossing, and he's got really good stamina too. He's not got the best pace, he's got 75 acceleration, which kind of cancels out the 63 sprint speed that he has, but you're not going to get bossed too hard even if they have a really fast winger, just because you'll usually have more stamina than the winger, and you'll be able to get up to speed not that dissimilarly to the winger themselves. On the ball, like I said, his crossing is 80, he's got really good ball control, dribbling, composure, agility, and his defensive stats are also around the same level. So he's probably going to be better if you're playing him as a left wing back or a left midfielder ahead of a full back, rather than at left back himself, but he is by far the best option Sweden have at left back. If you want a bit more pace, then I'd recommend having a look at Ken Semmer. He currently plays for Watford, and he's got around 80 pace. He's not as good on the ball, he's definitely not as good at defending, and he's quite a bit worse in the air, despite being the same height. Really, this just comes down to if you prefer pace or quality on the ball in your left back position. Centre backs where you have a couple of star players. The first is Victor Lindelof of Manchester United, who's still got potential to get even better despite being 25 years old. He's got really good defensive stats, he's got okay pace, he's got decent strength, he's decent on the ball too, with his passing being actually pretty high level for a centre back of his quality. And alongside him, you'll have Rangers' Philip Helander, who's 6'4" and very slow, but he makes up for it with his aerial ability and strength. Hopefully you'll have Lindelof covering Helander, otherwise you might be left a little bit exposed at the back. Our friend Tio, who put his squad in the comments on the post, actually wouldn't go with Helander, he'd go with Janssen. This is the same Pontus Jansson who captained Brentford back into the Premier League very recently, and he's got a very similar stat distribution actually. He's really good in the air, great strength, he's got quite a bit more pace though, he's got 63 sprint speed compared to 44, but nonetheless, if you go with Janssen or Helander, the chances are you're actually going to have someone who can win almost every header, because they're both 6'4". The only player that's probably going to be taller than your centre-back choice is your goalkeeper, and that's going to be Robin Olsen. He's a 77 overall, he plays for Everton, and he's got pretty average stats, 77, 76, 75, 77 and 78 on the goalkeeping stats. But he is a level above the other two goalkeepers, which are Christopher Nordfeldt and Carl-Johan Jonsson. So now you know the players, how does Sweden actually play? Well, they like to press on heavy touch by default, and they have pretty average team width and above average depth. So this means they play narrow and high up the pitch, which is kind of a weird choice given how slow their defence and midfield are, but if it helps them keep the opposition in the other half where they don't have to do as much running and can just utilise that stamina that they have, is probably for the best rather than trying to break forward at pace when they only have maybe Isak and Kulusevski who have any sort of resemblance of speed in the squad. It's definitely an interesting one playing at Sweden because the game plan will be a bit different to every other nation. With such a slow squad, such an old squad to be honest, but then weirdly such high stamina, you are going to have to try and make the most of this by pressing constantly, getting forward as much as you can, and just making space by doing 1-2s and not worrying about the fitness of your players. I actually had quite a lot of fun playing in the clips in the background as Sweden, so make sure you give it a go. Even if you just play one online game with each one of these teams, it's worth it just to experience all the different teams and get ready for Euro 2020. Also, it would make it easier for me to find footage of international teams versus international teams and not seeing Wales versus Galatasaray and stuff like that. So at least help me out by playing with international teams maybe. Anyway, that's all I have for today's video. If you're Swedish, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you're not Swedish, I also hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you want to see more guides on mainly clubs, but when there's an international tournament, I'm going to start doing them for every single international tournament, so that's the World Cup next year. Hopefully you'll be still here watching me for that. If not, then hope you have a nice time anyway. Hope you liked the video if you did like the video. And yeah, like I said, subscribe if you want to see more guides like this. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next guide, which will be coming probably tomorrow, or if you're watching this in the future, in the past. So, thank you for watching, and goodbye.